At the northwestern edge of Ocarina of Time's Hyrule, in the land of the Gerudo, is the shrine dedicated to their greatest deity, the goddess of the sand, the great landmark of the desert and the spirit temple's interior. The only temple and statue we explore as both a child and adult, a mystery that is never explained, but which is likely to hold a hidden past. I will give you the answer after you leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, as we're aiming for 2,500 likes. None other Zelda title has introduced as many recurring races as Ocarina of Time. Kokiri with the Great Deku Tree, Sheikah of Kakariko, Gorons of Death Mountain, Sea Zora of Zora's Domain. Then you had the nearly all-female Gerudo, who prevented Childling from entering, and then their king, Ganondorf, played him like a fiddle. Back as an adult, Epona crossed the gap. It goes without saying, the Gerudo section and the tribe itself were designed properly by the Zelda All-Star team.
The race had a simple purpose, as a countermeasure to the Hylians. Think Christian crusades against the Islamic Middle East. Speaking of, the original crest of the tribe, a symbol that a few years later was changed. Due to well similarities to Islam, this attitude of respecting strength and courage, all while ultimately trying to defy tyranny, that is a combination that defines the tribe and their goddess. Speaking of, let's go over her visual profile. So what was the inspiration when designing this iconic landmark of Ocarina? A number of Asian and Middle Eastern ancient cultures and religions predating the rise of Islam and originating west of Japan. Hence, to understand the goddess of the sand, we have to analyze our own history. The sitting position might be of Buddhist origin, but what about the wing symbol with Triforce beneath and eye inside the Spirit Temple? In an article in February 2023, Aaron Talon pointed out a resemblance, that of ancient Egypt seen in the winged sun of Thebes, fitting with the sun puzzles in the Spirit Temple, along with Faravar from the Zoroastrian faith of Mesopotamia. This was believed to represent the concept of Farashi, or personal spirit. This is the possible source of Ocarina of Time's Spirit Temple itself.
But back to ancient Egypt, since the desert colossus is probably tied to the giant statues of the Egyptian kings. Colossi, many with depictions of serpents. What is always a part of the goddess of the sand? A snake. In Ocarina of Time, hooded cobras. And the most visible connection is seen by the two found with Gerudo inscription. Not only that, influencing the Gerudo, including the independent Naboo, the second in command to Ganondorf, the king of the Gerudo. Ultimately, after his demonstration of strength, they accept Link as a member of their tribe. So, what is the origin of their deity and their statues? The answer might be in Ocarina of Time, the official Nintendo's Player's Guide. It states the following on page 97, quote, "The Spirit Temple was built by the ancient ancestors of the Gerudo people. Since only a single male child was born to the Gerudo every 100 years, the massive shrine was built by female masons and engineers." End quote. Based on the stone carving at its exterior entrance, along with the statue in the main chamber of its interior, it is clear who the temple was built for, the goddess of the sand. Not only that, it is likely that she has been their deity pretty much since the founding of the tribe, as the above quote references the ancient ancestors of the Gerudo. Why is this important? Since it clears up a misconception. In July 2022, I theorized that the Goddess of the Sand was a cover set up by Kouma and Kotake, Twin Rover. But following the information from the official Nintendo's Player's Guide, it is evident that the deity of the desert and the Gerudo easily predate the 400-year-old ladies.
Possibly by over 1,000 years, rather than creating the goddess, they simply misused her to fool the tribe to obey them, and then after raising Ganondorf their king, not to question but to follow orders as loyal warriors. Prior to these skirmishes, all we know from Sheik is what she stated as adult Link first appeared in the Temple of Time. Quote, "When evil rules all, an awakening voice from the sacred realm will call those destined to be sages, one inside a goddess of the sand." End quote. The only written reference and naming of the deity in the entire game. Perhaps Gerudo don't state her title out of respect. Either way, what does the goddess of the sand then symbolize? Was she even alive at some point like goddess Hylia? The last part is hard to tell. Luckily, we have some indications as to the origins from Skyward Sword. This is not only through Groos's crimson-red hair, but his descendants likely settled in Lanayru. Here we find the Gerudo dragonfly. Its eyes are theorized to be the lore exploration of the Gerudo crest. You know, after Nintendo had to drop the moon.
At least the locations make sense, seeing that the final resting place of the sand ship is equivalent to the location of the Gerudo fortress. Yes, in Ocarina of Time. Much points to the sand ship being the first home of the ancestors of the Gerudo in Lanayru. Moving northwest, we found Ocarina's Colossus, and it corresponds with Skyward Sword's northwestern landmark, the pirate stronghold at the end of the Lanayru Sands. And what do we find next to the Colossus? The dried up oasis, our clearest tie to the last remnant of the sea that once was here. But that is only the beginning, since the Lanayru province is naturally named after the goddess of wisdom and time, Nehru. It goes without saying, the immortal spirit is the main theme of the spirit temple, but in truth, the higher element here is time. As Sheik stated at the entrance to the Colossus, quote, "Past, present, future. The Master Sword is a ship which you can sail upstream and downstream through Time's river. The port for that ship is the Temple of Time. To restore the Desert Colossus and enter the Spirit Temple, you must travel back through Time's flow. Listen to this Requiem of Spirit." End quote.
It has been theorized in the past that the goddess of the sand is Din, the goddess of power, due to Ganondorf gaining the Triforce of Power. But that simply doesn't add up in the territory that is so clearly tied to Nehru, aka Time, the Time Shift Stones of Lanayru. However, there is one particular piece of direct evidence found in Ocarina of Time that we have withheld up to this point. That being the Great Fairy Fountain, located before you even reach the Desert Colossus. Here, by playing Zelda's Lullaby, Link summons the Great Fairy of Magic. She in return grants the hero of time a magic spell, Nehru's Love. By casting this, a protective barrier is created, Nehru's wisdom or defense in contrast to Din's power or offensive fire. Nehru granted the name of Lanayru the dragon and the province, plus also potentially gifted the Time Shift Stones, all of which predate the kingdom of the Gerudo. Yes, even their ancestors. It is all about time. This is due to the Time Shift Stones being the original reason why the Gerudo settled down in Lanayru in the first place. Sadly for them, they stopped working or were simply lost. Which brings us back to the Spirit Temple, where I believe we find the inspiration behind the Time Shift Stones themselves, both past and present, or in Ocarina, child and adult. To progress through the first section of the temple, you need to be a child.
The highlight of this one is from the interior statue of the goddess of the sand, leading into a battle against an iron knuckle, all to gain the silver gauntlets from the right hand of the goddess. The official Nintendo's Player's Guide shares the following quote: "The silver gauntlets, said to contain the power of an army. Any person who wore them would be able to lift impossible weights. An item of such obvious value was a prime target for thieves. So Ganondorf had the gauntlets hidden in the Spirit Temple." End quote. No wonder Naburo aimed to gain these, though as she was trapped by Kouma and Kotake, she fell victim to time itself. Instead, Link had to return with the gauntlets as an adult, and what followed mirrored the child's section. Interior statue of the goddess of sand, battle against an iron knuckle, all to get the mirror shield from the opposite hand of the external statue of the goddess. Already before this, many of the puzzles are about bringing light into a place of darkness, which fits as the symbol of the spirit medallion is two dualities, yin and yang, child and adult, past and future, all related to time and enlightenment. In this case, even by using cobra heads, multiple mirrors to expose the truth behind the face of the goddess of the sand.
Koumei and Kotake, who spent 7 years brainwashing the Buru and ultimately had her face Link in the armor of an iron knuckle. Freed, she is immediately imprisoned again for brainwashing round 2. Now, as you face Koumei and Kotake, what do you really do? Match the opposites of fire and ice. First, by reflecting it. Then the witches combine into Twin Rover by storing that energy, all to burn or freeze. But what really happens when you combine fire and ice? You get water, which Sheik pointed out is tied to time. But what about sand? Much of the same. Sand, like water, flows. It is even used in hourglasses to count down what? Time. Sands of Time. A good game. But we also know this mechanic from a later Zelda title, the Phantom Hourglass, where sand counts down time in the Temple of the Ocean King. Water and sand are overarching metaphors. For what? The overarching law of the world of Zelda, namely time. Following this logic, we reach enlightenment, the realization that the goddess of sand is in truth the goddess of time. From the legend of creation, we know that time is a law or gift from the golden goddess of wisdom, Nehru. The desert colossus, the goddess of sand, and the spirit temple are all a transition from darkness to enlightenment. Since how does this temple end? With Kome and Kotake first denying their passing from flesh to spirit. Though, in the end, they accept the law as their time has passed. Sadly, this is likely also the case for Naburu, who joins the other presumed deceased sages in the Chamber of the Sages of the Temple of Time. Even so, for her, an enlightened sage of spirit was the best outcome, especially since the alternative was Link's fall and then her continued unconscious servitude to the 400-year-old hags.
Time is water and sand, as the loading area of the Desert Colossus hides another hint, the side quest of the Oasis of Sand, with the Song of Storms granting water and fairies. And this can be done both as child or adult Link. Quite ironic, as it is a song you learn as an adult from the phonogram man and then use as a child to mess up the windmill to drain the bottom of the well and gain the lens of truth. Only issue is that he first learned the melody from child Link. Once again, the theme of time and water, which is essential in the Ocarina of Time. Let's not also forget Nehru, the Oracle of Ages, in Oracle of Ages. Her Harp of Ages literally allows Link to travel hundreds of years to the past from the present. Nevertheless, there is one final proof of the goddess of the sand being Nehru, outside of the Downfall timeline. After Ganondorf in the adult timeline is defeated by the Hero of Time and sealed away by the sages, the hero was sent back to create a new child timeline, where upon warning the royal family, Link leaves Hyrule for years. Not long after, King Ganondorf and his Gerudo army invaded, ravaged the kingdom of Hyrule until he was defeated and imprisoned. In the process, the Gerudo were exiled from Hyrule and Ganondorf sentenced to death, though instead of carrying out the sentence right away, he was kept alive, all to witness the Gerudo Spirit Temple being turned into Hyrule's most notorious prison, Twilight Princess, Arbiter's Grounds, replacing Kakariko's Shadow Temple.
Still, the Hylians must have known who the goddess of sand really was, the royal family's cherished protector, Nehru, hence why the statues of the goddess of sand are present. The only difference is that our encounters with the goddess are mirrored, first interior, then exterior. Standing in contrast to Ocarina, there we first witness the goddess at the entrance and then the second statue inside. The passage of time, and speaking of time, who during Ganondorf's execution performs the act? The Sage of Water, as seen by the medallion. In Ocarina, adult Link was granted this one by the Zora Sage, but what is their crest? That of Nehru of Time and Wisdom. And who does Ganondorf kill when spared from death by the Triforce of Power? The Sage of Water. There is a possible answer why the goddess of sand still stands proud. She is the Gerudo depiction of the golden goddess of wisdom and time, Nehru, the deity of the land their ancestors settled in, Lanayru with its timeshift stone and to whom they built the spirit temple.
And that is the divine solution to Ocarina of Time's greatest mystery, one that stretches across multiple timeline branches. But what do you think? Was the goddess of the sand just a Gerudo interpretation of Nehru? And was it intended by the Ocarina of Time Zelda team to be this way? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, as I really want to make more theory and mystery videos like this one on my favorite Zelda games. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching and to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. Special shoutouts to raw producers Zach Johnson and JC Funk, and heroes Holly Wolf, Cheryl and Garrett Hoy. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.